And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Gabe. And Gabe writes, John, hear me out on this tinfoil hat theory about who Patty Jenkins is writing her new Rogue Squadron movie with. It is my guess that Patty will be writing the movie with the great Aaron Sorkin. The reason that I say this is because of a video they did together on Variety's YouTube channel. If you watch through the video, they talk about wanting to work together on multiple occasions. Who else would she want to keep a secret for some grand announcement? Okay, thanks a lot for sending that in. And yes, where this is all coming from, this all stems from a statement that Patty Jenkins put out a little while ago. Now, look, just go back to the beginning here for a second. We all know that Patty Jenkins is adapting and making a Rogue Squadron movie for Star Wars. We know it's going to be set in the future. We don't know how far into the future yet, but we know it's going to be set in the future, sometime in the future. How far, how short, we don't know. And she's developing this and all this kind of stuff. Now, where this all comes from is that recently Patty Jenkins was talking about how she is writing the treatment and then going to be handing it over to another screenwriter. So she's writing the treatment for it, and then it's being handed over to another screenwriter. So who's that screenwriter? Well, this is what she said. She said, I want him to have his own proper announcement. So in the fact that she's not revealing who the screenwriter is herself, I want him to have his own proper announcement. So I'm going to wait until that comes out. But we're very far into we're finishing the treatment basically, which is pretty big. So it ends up being like where you're fairly close to a long screenplay by the time I'm done with the treatment is in my process. So yeah, we've been working on it for a while. It's going great. I'm super excited. That comes to us from Patty Jenkins. So what Patty Jenkins is developing a treatment. That's going to be kind of like the outline. This is what basically happens in this movie. Then she's handing it over to a screenwriter to actually make it into a screenplay. What stood out to me when I first read this, Rob, was the fact that, okay, so clearly this screenwriter is somebody of note. For her to go out of her way to say, yeah, I'm not going to say who the screenwriter is. I'm going to let him announce it himself. To me, that's kind of implying that this is going to be a marquee name. This is going to be somebody whose name we recognize and whose name we know. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I'm taking from this. Somebody whose name we know and recognize because they seem to be making a pretty big deal out of this. What the person writing in is referring to is that, yeah, just a couple of weeks ago on Variety's website and on their YouTube channel, Patty Jenkins and Aaron Sorkin decided to interview each other. And they had this little thing. And in this video they did together, they do reference a few times that wouldn't it be great to work together and all that sorts of thing. Now, it should be mentioned that Variety does several of these types of things. They have actors on actors where the actors interview each other. They've had other times when they've had directors interview directors or write. It doesn't mean they got an upcoming project together per se, but I honestly don't think it is all that tinfoil hat conspiracy theory-ish of you to suggest that, well, could 1 and 1 equal 2 in this situation? It doesn't always, but could it here? Clearly it's going to be somebody big. And listen, it doesn't get too much bigger, Rob, than Aaron Sorkin. Aaron Sorkin has 5 Emmys on his mantle. He has an Academy Award on his mantle. He is a thrice-time nominated Best Screenplay Writer for the Academy Awards, and he's got one on his thing there. He just did, in my opinion, the best movie of 2020 in Trial of the Chicago 7. I mean, and it seems like Lucasfilm now is going after bigger and bigger talent. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that Aaron Sorkin is writing Rogue. I'm not ready to do that. But it's one of the better theories I've heard that does have more circumstantial evidence surrounding it. I'm willing to say, Rob, I'm not going to be shocked if they announce that Aaron Sorkin's doing it. Again, I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying the stars seem to be aligning. It could be possible. Rob, am I being way too hopeful about this? Number one, do you think that he could be the writer on this project? And number two, what would you think of Aaron Sorkin writing a project like this?
Dude, I am a monstrously huge fan of Aaron Sorkin as a writer. And it has been my dream to see a marquee screenwriter, not Akiva Goldsman, tackle this kind of material. Star Trek, Star Wars, having a writer like Aaron Sorkin. What Aaron Sorkin would do is he knows he's writing a Star Wars movie, but what he would write is a great movie first. He would come up with a great story. Obviously, if they're working in tandem, I think, people always talk about, well, Rob, it's a Star Wars movie, but we don't want to see politics in it. I'm like, look, I love Tom Clancy political thrillers. I love when two warring sides, whether it's the Soviet Union and America, the Cold War and Hunt for Red October, if you are writing a movie about the First Order versus Rogue Squadron or whatever, you need that kind of gravitas added to it to give it that backdrop that a movie, that essentially a war film needs. And if someone like Aaron Sorkin, I mean, think about it. The guy wrote The Social Network. He wrote Steve Jobs. He made Molly's Game.
Oh, so good.
I mean, can you imagine getting the caliber of storytelling that we saw in Molly's Game or The Social Network brought into the Star Wars universe? That's what Star Wars has needed. It has needed an A-list writer, the kind of political intrigue that you got in The West Wing, or even the heart that an American president had, or A Few Good Men. Can you imagine Star Wars if it had its "you can't handle the truth" moment? Imagine what that would do to elevate the storytelling of the franchise. That's what we need, dude. And if this is true, I tell you, I might take off all my clothes and dance on the 210 freeway and enjoy.
It would be
because
great.
I'd be that excited, John. That excited.
By the way, you bring up an interesting point. A lot of times I hear some people say, like, make sure, like, they never, like, with an Aaron Sorkin, who has written a lot of political stuff, with obviously West Wing, one of the greatest shows ever made. But a lot of people say, oh, I don't want any of that in Star Wars. Do you know anything about the original Star Wars? You do know that George Lucas wrote the original Star Wars, like, as one huge giant political allegory, right? Like, you do know that a lot of his stuff was totally politically motivated and referencing all the political stuff of his day. Like, just go and read what George Lucas has to say about it. But that's not to say that's what they should go for. But yeah, listen, we've been hearing a lot of exciting stuff, but there's a difference between hearing exciting stuff and then seeing it actually come to fruition, right? Because we've just yesterday, Rob, we talked about Kevin Feige. His Star Wars movie is moving forward. They brought on the Loki writer. That sounds great. Taika Waititi is doing a Star Wars movie. That all sounds great. Like, there's a difference, though, between hearing great things and seeing it happen. So I would love it. But I'm just not going to let myself get too excited till we actually, see it happen. Question is, guys, what do you think about this possibility? Obviously, this is a high chance that this ain't going to happen, but what would you think of a writer like an Aaron Sorkin doing a Star Wars movie? Do you think that 1 and 1 equals 2? If not, do you think there's another high-profile filmmaker and writer that Patty Jenkins could be working with on this? What do you guys think? Jump down into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. Okay, guys.